So of these graphs, which one could be this? Y equals negative x to the third, let's say minus 6. Only one of these graphs could possibly be right. I want you to think that through for a minute. In a minute, I'm going to ask you to show me that you're on the right page for notes for today. But that's the first question, is which of these graphs could this be? I'm going to give them letters. A, B, C, D, E, or F. Now, I know from the negative in front of that, I know something important, and that's going to narrow it down a lot. But there still could be two things that it could be. It could be like this letter or that letter. But then the minus 6 at the end makes sure that there's only one right answer. All right, pause for a second. One of our students figured out it had to be F because the negative 6 was the y-intercept. And that meant that only F could have worked. All right, so here's another one like that. Everybody figure out which answer this must be. Y equals x to the third again, except this time it's going to have a positive 2x to the third. And there's more stuff to it, but you don't know any more than it's positive 2x to the third. Well, then you can't know for sure which one it is, but you can narrow it down. Which ones are possibly right? Okay, this time it's positive in front. Jay, what does that mean, that it's positive in front?
That the ending is going to be going up.
Yeah, the ending's going up. So which letters could qualify? A, B, C, D, E, or F?
Do you see D and E?
B, C, D, and E. If you said that, you were right. All of those could be the answer right now. Do you get all of those have different y-intercepts? Look at their y-intercepts. Okay. So what if I said, oh yeah, and the end of it is negative 20. I don't know about the middle of it, but the end of it's negative 20. Do you get, now it's down to only 2 of them can be right? Which of them have a y-intercept that could be negative 20? Not that one. That one's got a positive y-intercept. This one's also got a positive y-intercept. Now we're down to either D or C. Raise your hand if you had that right. Okay, good. All right. Now, if I was going to pick just one thing that I think kids are going to forget on this next test, I'm going to tell it to you right up front here. I think a lot of kids are going to forget to figure out the lead term. That and that make the lead term. So when they're graphing, kids are going to forget to find this lead term, and then they won't know whether it's going up or down on the left and right, and they won't know the degree. So would you please figure out these go together to make what? And it's the lead term, and it's super important. Please write down the lead term that you think comes out of that and compare it with the kid sitting next to you. All right, these 2 rows, finding the lead term for that polynomial. These 2 rows, I'm going to ask you 2 to compare long distance. Trying to figure out the lead term. You guys make a group of 3, right, Ellie? Wrong. You guys already have a group. You guys make a group of 2 right here, and then you 2 work together, please. All right, talk to each other. Who all had negative 3x to the third? Okay, good. Why is that so important? It tells me 3 things. It tells me the right end's going up. Is it going up? Is the right end really going up? No. Right end's going down because of that. And it tells me the left end is going, oh, you have to figure that out. Would you please figure out the right end and the left end? And I want you to tell me the degree of this polynomial. The right end, the left end, and the degree of this polynomial. Marcella, right end, which is what that negative tells us.
Goes down.
Down.
The left side goes up.
Left side goes up. Can you tell me why you knew that?
Because the degree is odd.
Because odd things mean different on each end. Nice job. The degree. Different person. Raise your hand and just tell me the degree. It's not a super hard question. Don't be scared. Yes.
3.
Degree is 3. Very good. It's the biggest power you'd ever have if you multiply this whole thing out. And that lead term should give you the biggest power. All right. Here's the one that's a little more complicated like that. Because we do this. It's tricky. Figure out the lead term now. Y equals what? And then the right side will do what? The left side will do what? And what's its degree? This lead term is trickier this time because I did something different. Before you go all the way to right, left, and degree, compare your lead term to the kid sitting next to you. See if you have the same lead term. You guys actually compare one
What was the fourth?
Yeah.
Before the second term, is negative 4 to the third. What are you doing both ends?
All right. Lydia, what do you say about the lead term in this thing? That's a very common wrong answer. Something's wrong already. All right, and I'm going to highlight something just to show you where you should have got it from, and maybe this will help you to see. That is getting squared and being times by this. Who knew that and then thinks they know the answer? Sage, what do you say?
Is it 4x to the 4th?
All right, 4x to the 4th. Does anybody have the same thing as she does? I'm not saying if it's right or wrong. A lot of people. All right. You are right. Now, why isn't it negative? Because when you take something negative and you square it, do you get it becomes positive? All right, so that's positive 4x to the 4th. Now that you know that, tell me the right end. I always do the right side first. And then the left end. And then the degree. I'll get a random person here. Dice of Destiny, who should I call it? Row 2. Person 3. Tyler, that's you.
4th degree.
4th degree, you are correct, sir. Degree 4. And Max, right side, up or down? Right side up. Why'd you know that? You're right. Why?
The leading coefficient is positive.
That's positive. Okay. And the left side, up or down?
Also up.
Why?
The degree is even.
If it's even, you do the same thing, which is up. Nice job. Up, up, and degree is 4. How many turns would it have, by the way? Remember that deal? Say it if you know it. 3. 3 turns. If it's a degree 4, it'd have 3 turns. So that'd be like this. 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. There. It's up on each end, and it's got 3 turns. That'd be degree 4. Okay. Now we got to be able to graph these things. Now this would have been too hard to graph. But imagine we had this. Do you remember that whole bounce thing? This one had a multiplicity of 2, which meant it was going to bounce there. This one had a multiplicity of 1, which just meant it'll pass through. It'll just pass right through. Now I want you to sketch what it looks like. You still shouldn't just like forget everything we just talked about. You should know the right end is going up or down. You should know the left end is going up or down. And the degree, I guess, doesn't really matter much, except it'll tell you how many turns it has. All right, give this one a shot. Take a sketch. If you can do this, we're halfway done. If you can make a sketch of this, including that root and that root. Maybe this is too hard. Maybe I've gone a step too far and nobody knows how to do this. I can't tell. I promise not to call on you on this, but how many of you think you've got this? Raise your hand if you think you know how to do this. Okay, good. That's most of it. All right. So then, I'll show you. This one would have been -3. And that -3 goes like right there. And it's bouncing there. This gives you +1 because it's the opposite of what you'd expect. And because if you put in a +1 right here, it would make it equal 0. So they're called zeros. That would be right here. Then I need it to go, this is the thing I said a lot of people would forget to do. Did you forget? It's y equals x to the third is the lead term. Even though I never asked for it, you need to be smart enough to go do it yourself and go, well, it's x times x squared, and that made x to the third, and that means that it's going up on the right. Odd number means different on the left. And bouncing here at the -3. Bounce. There we go. Raise your hand if you had that sketch basically right. Okay. We should do one more like that. Ready? What if I gave you, we'll see if you can handle the snake. Sketch what that would look like. You should know the two roots. You should know where there's a snake and where there's a bounce. You should know what the right end is doing, up or down. You should know the left end is either up or down. And if you have trouble drawing a snake through, you can just do a kind of squiggly line there and say, this is the snake. And then I'll be okay with you having art issues. We'll pause for a second and give this a shot. All right, I'm going to take my own advice and I'm going to do this part with this part and go y equals x to the 5th. And that will tell me a lot. Since there was no negatives on it, it must be going up on the right. It's got to hit +1 because of that 0. It's got to hit -5 because of that 0 right there. The thing that makes it equal 0 is -5. And I got to put a dot there. Then I got a snake here. And I got a bounce here. And it's got to be going up on the right, like I already said. So it's got to go up there, but it's got to bounce there. And then I like to draw the snakes as I go from left to right. So kind of like that. And if that was weird looking, I just draw and say snake right there. And it's going down on the left. They should be different, right? Because the power's 5. And up on the right. And yay! I think I did it. Raise your hand if you had the same thing as me. All right. Now, I notice that's not everybody. So I get, these are still tough, but the point for today is graphing. So let's actually go try to answer these questions now. What info can we get from this? The right end. We can get the left end. What else can we get? What else can you tell me about this graph? Yes?
Degree.
The degree. What else could you get from these? Like there's two important spots I can get. What are they called? X-intercepts. I also would have accepted it if you would have said zeros. They're actually also called roots, but we're probably going to call them zeros for your test. The zeros we could have got. And the zeros were -3 and 7. And last but not least, you could get MPY. Does anybody remember what that's the abbreviation for? Multiplicity. And the multiplicity is these little numbers. And it tells you about a behavior. Here it's going to bounce. And here with the degree 1, it just passes through. So it tells you a lot. Look at all those things I wrote down. It tells you the right side, the left side. It tells you the zeros. It tells you the multiplicity. We know the degree is degree 3 from the lead term. Y equals x to the third. And that came from this times this to the this. Okay. We know a lot of stuff. A lot. That's why this is not super easy. Okay. Here's another question. You should be able to tell what the leading term is first. That should be an easy point. End behavior, that's just on the right and on the left. And those, I just want you to graph them. Once you know you're down to just knowing the x-intercepts and whether it's bouncing and stuff, that you can show me by just graphing it. Okay, give this one a shot. If you get this, we're almost there. We'll be back to free time. You're working on some homework in a jiffy if you can just stay focused here for another few minutes. Okay, here we go. Row 6. Middle person. Taylor, that's you. Tell me the leading term. That's when you take this, this, and this. Maybe you missed one of those. There it is. X to the third. Then that tells you the end behavior. Row 5, last person, Stella. Right goes up, left goes down. Right is up because that's positive. Why is the left side different? Because the power is what? Odd is correct. Okay, next I'm going to graph it. What are the two roots? Row 6, first person, Connor. What are the two roots? The zeros?
Oh, -3 and 7.
-3 and 7. Good. Now, what is it doing at those spots? Marcella. Bouncing? Snaking? Cutting through? So, which one is your... Which one are you talking about? The 3 or the 7? And do you think it bounces or snakes or what?
Snakes.
All right. A snake is a degree 3. I'm not seeing a degree 3. Okay, so this one right here is a degree 2. Do you know what those do? Okay, write this one down. 2's bounce. 3's snake. Okay, 2 is bounce. 3's a snake. So that's a bounce. And that's here. Okay, and then... Row 5 and person 2. That's you. No, wait. 5 is over there. That's you, Alexis. The -3 just passes through. So this is a pass through, and this one's a bounce. Okay, now I got to know the whole, like, oh yeah, I got it right on, this one's up on the right and down on the left, so it's got to be going up here, bouncing off of this, and then going down on the left-hand side. I think I have it. Raise your hand if you have the same thing as me. Sweet. Most of the class is going to get an A on this test. Yay. All right. This is the same thing. It's just harder, but I don't want to keep on doing the same thing over and over again. You'll get really bored. So let's just talk about it. Would you agree it would bounce here? Would you agree it would just pass through in both of these? And what's the key thing that everybody's going to forget to do? Get the leading term. Would you just tell me the leading term while I answer his question? Mr. H, find the leading term, everybody.
Do you have to plot the y-intercept on the test?
On the y-intercept, we are going to have to get that. So how about if I do that really carefully on this problem? So for right now, did you guys figure out that it was x squared with another x, and that made x to the 4th? Raise your hand if you had an x to the 4th. Good. Then I know it's on the right side, it'll be up. On the left side, it'll be also up because they you know, go the same direction because that's an even number. So this has to be going up here and up here. And then I don't want to do all of this the same thing as we just did because I didn't want to bore you. But one thing we haven't done yet is the y-intercept. So thanks for bringing that up. Let me finish and make a sentence for you that's very powerful. You're going to use it all the way through pre-calc. The x-intercept is where y equals 0. And the y-intercept, which is the one you asked about, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So if the y-intercept is where x equals 0, you just have to put in a 0 here, here, and here, and multiply it all out. That tells you the y-intercept. So what's that? 5 squared is 25, times a -1 makes -25, times a 3, -75. So it'd be way down low would be my y-intercept. Okay, I got that by sticking in a 0 here, here, and here and multiplying it all out. And I know you might be like, I'd never be graphing a -75. On the test, we're not going to give you a y-intercept that's that small. It'll be like -10 or something. Okay? All right, so let's make sure you really get that y-intercept thing. Here's another one. Let's say it's that. What's the y-intercept of that? The y-intercept is where x equals 0. So Eddie, what should I do?
Make everything just all the x is 0.
Good.
1 times -1 times 4.
So that's 1. That's -1. That's 4. Final answer?
-4.
So y-intercept would be -4. See how easy that is? If you can just remember this sentence, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. Okay? All right, we'd still go through this root of -1, this root of +1. We would be bouncing because the multiplicity was 2, and we'd go through -4. So I'm going to finish this one. Here's +1, here's -1, and here's -4 for this one. I know the lead is going to be y equals, I'm doing this right now, x squared and the x and the other x, that's x to the 4th. So that tells me it's up on both ends. It's got to be going up here and here. And then it's got to bounce at only one spot. It bounces here at -1. So I'm going to go down here, through there, bounce at -1, and look at how perfect that worked out. That's how you graph. So many things to know though, like x-intercept and y-intercept. X-intercept is where y is 0. Y-intercept is where x is 0. You got to know the roots, the same thing as the zeros. You got to know if they're bouncing. You got to know their multiplicities. You got to know if it's up or down on the right and the left. So many little things to know. All right. So if you can do this, not this one, that was still too easy. I think this is our last one I want to do. If you can do this one, I will be impressed. It's got a snake and a bounce and a pass-through. It's got a negative lead term. Better figure out what the lead term is. This is about as hard as they could possibly get. Give this one a shot. So I was asked, what is that for? Like therefore, what is that helping me with? This to the 3rd and this -4x and this x to the 4th all combined together to give me this leading term here, which is y equals, and that's what the -4 is for.
Like, when it like bounces or snakes or whatever, what are you doing it for?
Okay, so this one, would you tell me what this one's doing? Bouncing or snaking or what?
Snake?
Yep, it's a snake there. How about, what's this one doing?
I don't know. That's what
Okay,
I'm asking.
okay. So then it's, would you agree that it's even?
Yeah.
Did you know that all even ones bounce?
No.
All right, so you learned something there. It's not just twos, it's any even one bounces. And this last one here, I thought you meant this four here, but now I understand what you mean. And the last one is not bouncing or snaking, so then it's just passing through. All right, I'll pause again for a minute. This is a tough one, but if you can do this, you can do anything. Okay, so the leading term here would have been x, no, 4x, no, negative 4x to the 3, 4, 7, eighth. Raise your hand if you had negative 4x to the 8th. Nice, you started off with one of the hardest things correct. Now the right end is going down because of that. Because of this negative here, it's going down. Left end, that's the same because of this. Same means also going down. If these are even, then it does the same. Then I got to get the x-intercepts, though they are negative 2 and 5. Those are the two easy ones. What about this middle one? If you get stuck on that kind, just write negative 4x plus 2 equals 0 and solve it. Negative 4x equals negative 2. I'm just subtracted 2 from both sides. And now x equals negative 2 over negative 4 is 2/4 or 1/2. I bet you not many people had a half. Did anybody figure out that 1/2 was one of the x-intercepts? Raise your hand if you did. All right, that's better than I thought. More than half of you, actually. Okay, then I can actually start to graphing. At negative 2, that's this one. That's a snake. I'm going to just say SN for snake. At 1/2, it's just a pass-through because that's this one and there was no power. That's just a pass-through. I'm going to put a P for pass-through. And then at the 5, it's going to be a bounce because any even power is a bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B for bounce. Now, I said it was down on the left. No, right. Down on the right, sorry. And down on the left. And it has to bounce here. Just pass through there. And do a weird snaky thing there. And if I want credit for that snake, which is really not awesome, I would still have taken it if the kid had said snake and then said, I'm trying to do a snake right there. This one just passed through and this one was a bounce. I think I did it right. Did anybody else have basically the same thing as I did? If you can do that one, that's about as hard as they get. All right. So you have a worksheet. Not going to do the challenge one with you. If you want to know the answer to the challenge, I'd happily tell you. But the worksheet, as always, I'd like to cut it down for you because I really feel strongly about you guys doing your homework more than doing long homework. Okay, so if somebody could pull that up, I'll pause for a second while we figure out which ones to skip. So I determined that since it was only 3 questions, I think that's reasonable. So that's your homework. And if you have questions, please come up and ask, and I would be happy to help you. And remember, the test is not like on Monday. Just to clarify, the test is on Thursday. Okay, so we're going to have a whole nother day to practice graphing. And then I think there's one more thing, and then a review, and then the test on Thursday. That's all I got for you for today.